I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about being in a relationship where you feel like you're drowning that nobody understands. Everyone's calling me manipulative now, saying I got exactly what I deserved when Marcus walked away from me in that parking lot. But the truth is, I ruined everything for a reason I've never admitted to anyone. Not to my therapist, not to my sister, not even really to myself until it was too late. The worst part about what happened isn't that I tested him. It's why I needed to test him in the first place, and what that says about who I am as a person. Because if I'm being honest, I've been doing this my whole life, and Marcus was just the first person who finally called me on it. This isn't just about one stupid moment outside a restaurant. It's about this fear I've carried since I was 14 years old, watching my dad pack his car at 3 in the morning, thinking he didn't know I was awake. It's about learning that the people who say they love you will leave the second it gets hard, and spending the next 15 years making absolutely sure that never happens to me again, even if it means being the one who leaves first. I'm going to tell you everything, including what I said to Marcus after he told me he loved me for the first time. And the part that makes me look worst, I'm saving that for the end because you need to understand how I got there first. You need to know that when I stood in that parking lot and said those words, I genuinely believed I was protecting myself. I thought I was being smart. I met Marcus at a wedding where I was a bridesmaid, and he was filling in as the photographer's assistant. Actual photographer had food poisoning, and Marcus was this guy who did portrait photography on weekends and had gone a panicked call at 5 that morning. He showed up looking slightly disheveled, with his shirt buttoned wrong and this apologetic smile that I found immediately suspicious. That's important, that I found his kindness suspicious from the start. He took approximately 600 photos of me that day, which sounds romantic but was actually just because I was in every wedding party shot. During the reception, he came over to show me some of the candids he'd taken. There was one of me helping the bride fix her dress, and in it, I looked gentle, soft, like someone capable of caring about another person without calculating the risk. You should smile like that more often, he said, when you're not aware someone's watching. I told him that was a creepy thing to say to someone you just met. He laughed and said I was probably right, then asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime so he could apologize properly. I said yes before I could stop myself. Our first date lasted 7 hours. We met at a coffee shop at 2 in the afternoon and ended up at a diner at 9 at night, still talking. He told me about his family, how his parents had been married for 32 years and still went dancing every Friday. How his little sister was getting her PhD in marine biology. How he'd wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, but realized he loved capturing people more than places. I told him I worked in marketing, which was true. I didn't tell him that I'd been engaged once before and had broken it off 3 weeks before the wedding. I didn't mention that my longest relationship after that had been 4 months, and I'd ended it the day after the guy told me he was falling for me. Just when I thought this might actually be different, that maybe I'd finally met someone who made the fear worth ignoring, he said something that should have been sweet. He said, I feel like I could talk to you forever. And all I could think was that's what they all say at first. I went cold. I could feel it happening, like a door slamming shut in my chest. I made an excuse about having an early meeting and left him sitting there with half a slice of pie, looking confused. I cried the whole way home, but I didn't text him back when he asked if he'd done something wrong. He waited 3 days, then sent me a photo he'd taken at the wedding. It was one I hadn't seen, a shot of me laughing at something the maid of honor had said. I looked happy, unself-conscious. The text said, I hope whatever I did, we can move past it. I'd really like to see you again. I should have left him on read. Instead, I agreed to a second date. For the next 3 months, we fell into this pattern where everything would be perfect until he got too close, and then I'd pull back. Cancel plans, go quiet for days. He'd give me space, never push, and then I'd feel guilty and reach out again. Each time, he welcomed me back without making me explain myself. Everyone online thought we were this perfect couple because I'd post these carefully curated photos of us. Coffee dates, walks in the park, his hand on my back. The comments were always full of heart emojis and people saying, relationship goals. But privately, I was keeping a running list in my phone of every red flag, every sign that he might leave. He was too nice. That was suspicious. Nobody was that patient unless they wanted something. He never got angry when I disappeared, which meant he probably didn't care that much, or he was hiding who he really was. The fact that he seemed perfect meant he definitely wasn't. My best friend Jess finally confronted me about it over drinks. You're doing that thing again, she said, where you find reasons to bail before it gets real. I'm being careful, I told her. There's a difference. No, you're being scared and you're going to lose him. If he leaves, he was going to leave anyway. At least this way I'm prepared. She looked at me like I was exhausting her, which was fair. Ava, he's not your dad. Not every man who gets close to you is planning his escape route. But she didn't get it. She'd never watched someone she loved pack their life into a Honda Civic and drive away without looking back. She'd never heard her mother crying through the walls every night for 6 months. She didn't understand that being prepared wasn't the same as being paranoid. I thought I was protecting myself, but really I was building a case against someone who'd never actually hurt me. Around month 4, Marcus started saying things like my girlfriend instead of using my name when he introduced me. He invited me to his sister's birthday party. He gave me a key to his apartment, said I could come by whenever I wanted, that he liked the idea of me being there even when he wasn't. Normal relationship stuff. Stuff that should have made me happy. Instead, I started testing him in small ways. I'd pick fights over nothing to see how he'd react. Show up late to dates to see if he'd complain. Go 3 days without texting to see if he'd get angry or beg for attention. He never did. He'd just calmly ask if everything was okay, tell me he was there if I needed to talk, and wait for me to come back to him. Which only made me more suspicious. Nobody was this emotionally stable. What was he hiding? Just when I'd convinced myself he was probably secretly married or had a gambling problem or something equally catastrophic, he took me to this little Italian restaurant for our 6-month anniversary. He'd made a reservation, brought flowers, the whole thing. We had wine and pasta, and he told me about this photography exhibition he was working on, portraits of long-term couples talking about their relationships. I've been interviewing people married for 20, 30, 40 years, he said. Asking them how they knew their person was the one. And you want to know the most common answer? I didn't actually, but I nodded. They said they just stopped being afraid, that at some point they realized being without the person scared them more than being hurt by them. He was looking at me so intently when he said it, like he was trying to tell me something without actually saying it. Then he reached across the table and took my hand. Ava, I love you. I've loved you for a while now, and I wanted to tell you in case you didn't already know. My first thought was there it is, the trap. My second thought was I need to get out of here. My third thought was why does he look so genuinely happy when he just set a timer on this entire relationship? I pulled my hand back. We should go. The confusion on his face was immediate. What? Why? I just think we should leave. He paid the check without arguing, and we walked to his car in silence. The whole drive back to my place, I could feel him glancing at me, trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. He pulled into my parking lot and turned off the engine. Did I upset you? He asked. Because I thought you might feel the same way, but if I misread things, you didn't misread anything. Then what's wrong? And here's where I did it. Where I made the choice that ended everything, even though I'm still not entirely sure I had another option. Prove it, I said. He blinked. What? Prove you love me. If you really mean it, prove it. I watched him process this, his expression shifting from confused to something harder to read. Ava, I just told you I love you. I don't understand what you want me to. That's just words. Anyone can say words. I need you to show me. Show you how? I didn't have an answer ready. I hadn't thought this through. I just knew I needed something concrete, something I could point to later when he inevitably left and say, see. He said he loved me, but he couldn't even do this one thing. I don't know, I said. Quit your job. Introduce me to your parents tomorrow. Delete all your dating apps even though I still have mine. Give me something real. Even as I said it, I knew how insane it sounded. But I couldn't stop. The panic was rising in my chest, and all I could think about was my dad's taillights disappearing down our street, and my mom's face the next morning when she had to tell us he wasn't coming back. Marcus sat there for a long moment, his hands still on the steering wheel. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. You want me to prove I love you by doing something irrational and dramatic. I want you to prove it means something, that it's not just something you're saying because we've been together for 6 months and it seems like the right time. I deleted those apps 3 months ago, he said. You would know that if you'd ever actually asked instead of just assuming the worst. And I've already told my parents about you. My mom's been asking when she can meet you since February. I felt something crack in my chest, but I pushed forward anyway. Then do something else, something that proves you're serious. Like what? What would possibly be enough for you? I don't know, something that shows you're not going to leave the second this gets hard. It's already hard, Ava. It's been hard since our first date when you disappeared for 3 days. It's been hard every time you pick a fight over nothing or go silent for a week. I'm still here. Doesn't that prove something? He was getting frustrated now, and part of me was satisfied by that. Finally, a real emotion. Finally, proof that he wasn't this impossibly patient robot who never felt anything negative. Words are easy, I said again. I need more than words. Marcus turned to look at me fully, and there was something in his expression I'd never seen before. Something like disappointment. No, he said. What? No, I'm not going to prove I love you like this. I'm not going to jump through hoops and make grand gestures because you're too scared to believe me when I tell you the truth. I love you, Ava. I love you enough to have put up with 6 months of you testing me and pushing me away and looking for reasons to run. But I don't love you enough to play this game. My heart was pounding. So that's it. I ask you for one thing and you're done. You're not asking me for one thing. You're asking me to prove something that can't be proven the way you want it proven. You're asking me to fix something I didn't break. He opened his car door. I think you should go inside now. Are you seriously ending this because I asked you to prove you love me? I'm ending this because you don't actually want me to prove anything. You want me to fail so you can confirm what you already believe about people. That everyone leaves. That love isn't real. That it's safer to be alone. He got out of the car and walked around to my side, opened my door like he always did. Always the gentleman, even now. I really do love you, he said. And I'm sorry that scares you so much. I'm sorry someone hurt you badly enough that you can't let anyone get close. But I can't be the one you practice leaving on anymore. I got out of the car and stood there in the parking lot, waiting for him to take it back. To say he was sorry, that he'd do whatever I wanted, that he couldn't lose me. All the things I'd seen in movies, all the things that proved someone really cared. Instead, he got back in his car and drove away. I stood there for probably 20 minutes just staring at the empty parking space, waiting for him to come back. Certain he would come back because that's how these things always went. You fight, they leave, they cool down, they realize they overreacted, they come back. He didn't come back. I went inside and immediately called Jess. He left, I said, and I was surprised by how my voice cracked. I asked him to prove he loved me and he said no and just left. There was a long pause on the other end. Then what exactly did you ask him to do? I explained the whole thing, expecting sympathy. Expecting her to say Marcus was being unreasonable, that if he really loved me he would have understood what I needed. Instead she said, Ava, what the fuck is wrong with you? Excuse me. You finally found a good guy. A guy who's been nothing but patient and kind and honest with you. He tells you he loves you and your response is to demand he prove it like he's on trial. I just needed to know it was real. No, you needed to push him away before he could leave you. And congratulations, it worked. You got exactly what you wanted. I hung up on her. Then I blocked her number, which I unblocked an hour later when the panic really set in. I thought I was being smart, protecting myself. But really, I just confirmed my worst fear by making sure it came true. For the next week, I waited for Marcus to reach out. I checked my phone obsessively, jumped every time I got a notification. I wrote and deleted probably 50 text messages. Everything from I'm sorry to you're an asshole for giving up on us to please can we talk about this. I didn't send any of them, because the truth was, I didn't know what I wanted to say. I didn't know if I was sorry. Part of me still thought he should have just done what I asked, that it was a reasonable request given how vulnerable I'd been making myself by being in this relationship at all. Just when I thought maybe I could live with it, that maybe this was for the best, my cousin sent me a screenshot of Marcus's Instagram story. He'd posted one of his couple portraits with a quote from the interview, "The biggest risk in love isn't getting hurt. Holding back so much that you never really love at all." The caption said, "Learning this one the hard way." I stared at that screenshot for hours, posted it to a private Reddit relationship forum asking if I was wrong for what I'd asked. The responses were, "Not kind, you sound exhausting. This poor guy dodged a bullet. Get therapy. You're not going to find anyone who passes your tests because your tests are designed to be failed." That last one stuck with me, because it was true, wasn't it? I'd been setting Marcus up to fail from the start. Every time he did something right, I moved the goalposts. Every time he showed up for me, I found a reason it didn't count. Everyone online thought they had me figured out from one post. But what they didn't understand was how terrifying it is to love someone when you absolutely know in your bones, that they're going to leave. That it's not a question of if, but when. And when they do, you'll be the one left crying through walls while your life falls apart. Better to end it on your terms. Better to be the one who walks away, even if you have to force their hand to do it. But I hadn't walked away this time. I'd stood there in that parking lot, watching him leave, and realized too late that I'd wanted him to stay. 2 weeks after the breakup, I ran into Marcus at a coffee shop. the same one where we'd had our first date, which felt cosmically cruel. He was there with a camera, photographing the interior for some project. I thought about leaving before he saw me, but he looked up right as I was turning toward the door. "Hey," he said, not warm but not hostile either, just neutral. "Hey, I didn't know you'd be here." "It's okay, I'm almost done anyway." He adjusted his lens, took a few more shots. I should have left. Instead I said, "Can we talk?" He lowered his camera. "I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just 5 minutes." He checked his watch like he had somewhere to be, which he probably did because Marcus was always busy with some project or another. 5 minutes. We sat down at a corner table, the same table where we'd sat for 7 hours that first day. I wondered if he remembered. I wondered if it hurt him the way it hurt me. "I'm sorry," I said, "for what I asked you to do, for pushing you away, for all of it." "Okay, that's it, just okay. What do you want me to say, Ava, that it's fine? That we can just pick up where we left off?" He ran his hand through his hair, looking tired. "I meant what I said that night. I love you. I probably still love you if I'm being honest, but I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly on trial, where nothing I do is ever enough to make you feel secure. I know it wasn't fair, but you don't understand what it's like to be afraid of being left, to have trust issues, to protect yourself by pushing people away." He shook his head. "Everyone's afraid, Ava. Everyone's been hurt. That's not unique to you. The difference is some people choose to work on it instead of making it everyone else's problem." That stung, probably because it was true. "I'm working on it," I said quietly. "I started seeing a therapist." "That's good, I'm glad." He sounded like he meant it. "But I can't be the one who waits around while you figure yourself out. I can't keep being the test you need to pass or fail to prove whatever it is you need to prove to yourself. What if I'm better now? What if I can do this differently?" "It's been 2 weeks, Ava. You're not better. You're scared of being alone, which is different." He stood up, started packing his camera gear. I felt panic rising in my throat, the same panic I'd felt in his car that night. The overwhelming need to make him stay, to prove that this time I meant it, that this time I wouldn't sabotage everything. "Wait," I said, "please, just give me another chance." He stopped, looked at me with something like sadness. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Testing me, seeing if I love you enough to take you back even after everything, trying to get me to prove it." I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it, because he was right again. I was doing exactly what he said. "I hope you figure it out," he said. "I really do. You deserve to be happy, Ava. You deserve to let someone love you without being terrified of it, but that someone isn't going to be me." He left for the second time, and this time I didn't expect him to come back. The weeks after that were bad. I won't pretend they weren't. I called in sick to work 3 days in a row and spent them in bed, scrolling through our old messages and photos. I unfollowed him on everything, then made a fake account to check his profiles, which I know is unhinged, but I'm trying to be honest here. He seemed fine. He was still posting his photography work, still going to gallery shows and coffee with friends. There was no evidence I'd broken his heart or that he was struggling at all, which either meant he was handling the breakup in a healthy way, or he'd never cared as much as he said he did. I went back and forth on which I believed, depending on the day. My therapist, when I finally told her the full story, asked me what I thought would have happened if Marcus had done what I asked, if he'd quit his job or made some other grand gesture to prove his love. "I guess I would have believed him," I said. "For how long?" I didn't have an answer to that. "What would have been the next test?" she pressed. "Because in my experience, when someone believes love has to be proven, no amount of proof is ever enough. There's always another test. Another way they could show up more, love harder, prove more definitely that they're not going to leave. So what, I'm just supposed to believe people when they say they love me, even though they might be lying? No, you're supposed to accept that love always involves risk, that there are no guarantees, that you can't control whether someone stays or leaves, and trying to control it through tests and games only guarantees they'll leave faster." I hated how much sense that made. 3 months after the breakup, I was doing marginally better. I'd stopped checking his social media, stopped writing unsent text messages, stopped boring my friends with the same circular conversations about what I should have done differently. Then I found out through a mutual friend that Marcus was seeing someone new. A teacher he'd met at one of his photography exhibits. Someone who apparently wasn't afraid of the word love or the idea of a future. I spent that night drunk texting Jess, who'd forgiven me for hanging up on her because she was a better friend than I deserved. "It's only been 3 months, I said. "How is he already with someone else?" "Because he's not you," she replied. "He doesn't need to be alone to feel safe." That hurt more than finding out about the new girlfriend. Just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom with this whole situation, that I'd processed it and moved on and learned my lesson, I did something I'm still not proud of. I messaged him. It was late, I was wine drunk, and I convinced myself I just needed closure. I needed to ask him one question and then I could finally let this go. Did you ever really love me, or were you just saying it because that's what people say at 6 months? He didn't respond for 2 days. When he did, it was simple: I really loved you. That was never a lie. I wrote back, then how are you with someone else already? Another day of silence. Then because she lets me love her without making me prove it. Please don't message me again, Ava. I need to move on and so do you. I blocked his number after that. Not because I was angry, but because I knew if I didn't, I'd keep reaching out every time I felt weak or scared or convinced that I'd made a mistake by letting him go. That's the thing nobody tells you about pushing people away to protect yourself. Eventually, they stay away. And then you're just alone with all the fear you were trying to avoid, plus the loss of someone who might have actually stayed if you'd let them. My therapist and I spent months unpacking why I did what I did. We talked about my dad, obviously. About the morning he left, and how I'd blamed myself for years, convinced that if I'd been a better daughter, less needy, more independent, he would have stayed. We talked about how I'd spent 15 years making sure I never needed anyone that badly again. How I'd turned self-sufficiency into an identity and relationships into experiments I could control. When Marcus said he loved you, my therapist said one session, what did you feel? Scared. Of what specifically? I had to think about that. That he meant it. That I'd let myself believe him and need him and plan a future with him. And then one day I'd wake up and he'd be gone, and I'd be my mom crying through walls. I'd be that person who gave everything and got left anyway. First, I made him leave, I corrected. There's a difference. Is there? You got the same outcome either way. You're alone, he's gone, and you get to tell yourself it was inevitable, that you were right to protect yourself because see, everyone leaves eventually. I cried through the rest of that session. Here's the worst part, the thing I've never told anyone until now: I wasn't in love with Marcus when he said he loved me. I liked him, cared about him, could see maybe falling for him eventually. But I wasn't there yet. If I'm being completely honest, I might never have gotten there, because I don't know if I'm capable of that kind of vulnerability. I don't know if I can ever trust someone enough to actually fall in love with them, to give them the power to hurt me that badly. And the test I gave Marcus, it wasn't really about him proving his love. It was about me confirming that he couldn't. That his love wasn't strong enough to withstand my fear, which meant I was right to be afraid, which meant I could protect myself by ending it. I thought I was the victim in this story. The woman with trust issues who just needed someone patient enough to break through her walls. But really, I was the villain. I was the one hurting someone who'd done nothing but care about me. I was the one sabotaging something good because I was too scared to find out if it could be great. Marcus was right when he said I didn't want him to prove anything. I wanted him to fail. I needed him to fail, because if someone like him, someone kind and patient and honest, could actually love me and stay, then I'd have to confront the possibility that my dad leaving wasn't about me being unlovable. It was just about him being a coward. And if that was true, then I'd wasted 15 years protecting myself from something that wasn't actually inevitable. I'd lost Marcus and who knows how many other people because I was fighting a battle that was already over. It's been a year since that night in the parking lot. I'm still in therapy. I've been on a few dates, but nothing serious. I'm trying to work on being okay with uncertainty, with not knowing if someone's going to stay or leave, with trusting people's words instead of looking for proof in grand gestures. It's fucking hard. Sometimes I still check Marcus's Instagram from my fake account, which my therapist says I should delete, but I'm not quite there yet. He married the teacher 6 months ago. Quick, I know, but when you know, right? That's what people say. They look happy in the photos. He looks at her the way he used to look at me, except she's smiling back without that guarded expression I wore like armor. I wonder sometimes if he tells the story of us. If I'm the crazy ex-girlfriend in his anecdotes, the one who demanded he prove his love and then blamed him for leaving when he refused. I wonder if he and his wife laugh about it, about the girl who was so scared of being left that she made sure it happened. Probably not. He doesn't seem like the type to turn pain into punchlines. Just thinks I should date more seriously, that I'm ready. But I don't know if I am. Because what happens when someone says they love me again? What happens when I feel that familiar panic rising, that need to test and push and confirm my worst fears? I want to believe I do it differently now. That I've learned enough and grown enough to let someone in without sabotaging it. But wanting to believe something and actually believing it are different things. The truth is, I still don't know if I'll ever be able to trust love without proof, and I still don't know what proof would ever be enough. What I do know is that Marcus was the closest I've ever come to letting someone really love me, and when the moment came to either trust him or protect myself, I chose protection. I chose fear. I chose to stand in that parking lot watching him drive away, rather than risk the possibility that he might drive away later, when I loved him enough for it to really destroy me. Everyone thinks they know what happened based on the title of this story. Guy refuses to prove his love, leaves girl in parking lot, guy's the asshole. But you've read this far and now you know the truth. I was already planning my exit from the relationship. I'd been planning it since the day we met. The test was just my way of making him do the work for me, of being able to say he left me instead of admitting I was never going to let him stay. So yeah, I said, prove you love me as a test, and he said no and left me standing there. But I'm the one who wrote the test to be impossible. I'm the one who made sure there was only one outcome. And I'm the one still standing in that parking lot in my mind, watching the taillights disappear, telling myself I'm safer this way, even though I've never felt more alone.